Good to go. Councillor Adams. Yeah, he just needs to turn his camera on.
Need to be on if you're going to do due consideration.
Ready to go? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Metro Outer Development Assessment Panel meeting. I declare the meeting open at 9:41 a.m. and apologise for the delay in starting the meeting. I acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respect to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the DAP Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the DAP Regulations. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our members participating today. My name is Dale Page. I'm the presiding member for today's meeting. In the room with me, I have the Deputy Presiding Member, Francesca Lafanti. Online, we do have Nima Premji. She's just battling to hook up with her sound at the moment, but she will join us when she is able. For Part B of our agenda, which deals with the City of Gosnells item, we have Councillor David Good and Councillor Aaron Adams online with us. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
And for Part C, the City of Wanneroo, we have Councillor Bronwyn Smith and Councillor Jackie Huntley, and we will talk to them in a little while. Item 2, apologies. Councillor Karen Baines is apology. She's our member for the City of Gosnells. Item 3, members on leave of absence, there are nil. Item 4, noting of minutes. All minutes of all previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Moving on now to Part B, the City of Gosnells. Item 1 is declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and the Part B related information, noting that an R13 direction response was published on the 10th of July 2025. Could I please confirm by a show of hands that members have considered all information that is relevant to this item? And when Nima joins us, I will ask her the same. All right. Item 2, disclosures of interest. No disclosures have been received to this point. Do any members wish to make any declarations of interest in relation to this item? And could I just check with our local government members whether the item has been before you at a council meeting or a council briefing?
No, it hasn't.
No. Great. All right. Are there any other disclosures any member wishes to make?
No. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Nima. Could you just confirm, please, under the declaration of due consideration that you have considered all the information? Yes, thank you.
Yes. I don't know what happened. It looks like we're back online because I can actually see you and hear you on Zoom. So that's okay. We're back online. Sorry. Sorry.
All right, moving then on to item 3, our Form 1 DAP application today. Item 3.1 is lot 229, 91 Murdoch Road, Thornley. Proposed childcare premises, DAP number 25/02902. We have one presenter on this item today, Joseph Bennett from Planning Solutions. I believe Joseph is accompanied by Josh Watson and Harry from Planning Solutions and Harry Metham from Accord Property. Would you like to come forward? Presenters, I remind you in accordance with Clause 4A2 of our Standing Orders 2024, your presentation is limited to 3 minutes. We've read everything that you have provided us, so you're encouraged to focus on the key points that you want to get across within your 3-minute time frame. We'll be able to ask you questions after your presentation. Your 3 minutes starts when you are ready.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and good morning, panel members and local government officers. I'm Joe Bennett from Planning Solutions, the applicant in support of the proposed 116-place childcare centre at 91 Murdoch Road in Thornley. We are pleased that this development is recommended for approval by the City and would like to thank them for their work and positive recommendation to the DAP. The development has been carefully designed to respect the surrounding residential character, act as a transition to built form between the Forest Lake Shopping Centre and residential locality, and address the adjacent street and public open space with a strong and well-considered interface. Although there is an on-paper parking shortfall of 3 bays, the traffic analysis demonstrates that the proposed parking is more than adequate for the operation of the facility. The proposed development is supported by the necessary traffic, acoustic and waste technical reports, which have been reviewed by the City and are confirmed to sufficiently address operations and functionality. We have reviewed the proposed conditions and find them to be generally acceptable. However, we request a minor amendment to condition 11 relating to the public art contribution. Specifically, we ask that the timing for the cash in lieu option be amended from specifying prior to applying for a building permit to specifying prior to occupation. This change provides flexibility during construction, supports project cash flow, and still ensures that the contribution is made before the facility becomes operational. To conclude, we consider that the childcare premises is well placed adjacent to the Forest Lake Shopping Centre and the Thornley residential locality, and will provide an important service to the local community. I request that the panel support the proposed development today in line with the amendment to condition 11. Thank you all for your time. Myself and my colleague Josh Watson are available to answer any questions from the panel.
Thank you for that. We'll start with our members online. Councillor Good, do you have any questions of these presenters?
Not at this stage, but I'll be mindful to go to our planning officers in due course. I think I have a question coming on, but not just yet.
Sure. Councillor Adams, do you have any questions of this presenter?
No, I'm fine at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Premji, do you have a question for this presenter?
No, I'm not for this presenter, but for the officers I do. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question to you. I'm pretty sure I already know the answer. One of the submissions has raised concerns about access, particularly it's talked about access to be obtained via Savoy Lane. The plans that we have submitted indicate that the site that adjoins that is going to be a separate lot on our plans and that the subject site will only have frontage via Murdoch. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. There's potential for the adjacent site to be developed in the future. It's the same landowner and it will potentially be for residential development, but that hasn't been confirmed as of yet, which is why, yeah, we've, I suppose, specifically in acoustic reporting, have gone with sort of the most conservative approach of residential development, but it could be, other types of development.
My comment was principally related to the submission that talked about the proposed development, or in the material we have, should get access via the adjoining road. But your plans show this site as
that road is
joining that at all.
not at all. Our development site is close to
Solely
the
on.
shopping centre, where there's 6,000 plus square metres on that other side, which is in front.
That
Impede our ability to get access to Savoy Road. So
plans show here that's going to be a separate lot.
That's right.
Any question?
No, just one question from me. So I think I picked up in the traffic impact statement that that's been modelled on the basis of a maximum of 17 staff on site at any one time. So I think the report, the Responsible Authority report, talks about 19 staff members as a maximum. So I'm just checking, will all 19 staff members be on site at any one time, or does the figure of 19 include support staff that might attend to cover lunch and other breaks?
The 19 staff will be during that maximum in the middle period. So I think that was during the peak period, that there would be 17 coming in that peak hour. So that's why it's covered off on that. I think it's 82 vehicles during that peak period in the morning and then peak period in the afternoon. So that's why you're not getting all the kids in that peak period. So that's why it's during the middle of the day, maybe 3 or 4 hours, but then it's less staff.
Thank you. We might then move on to invite questions of our local government officers. We've got Brenton Scambler and Kevin Townrow with us today, I believe, from the City of Gosnells. Are there any questions any member would like to ask the City officers? Councillor Good, any questions for the City officers?
Yes, thanks, Madam Presiding Member. Mr. Scambler, with regards to the clause to delete the public art, from history, does that work if someone wishes to delay it because of the cash flow projections, etc.? Meaning, is there any issue in one collecting it prior to occupation? I just want to make sure that we get the public art allocated correctly. And can we delete that clause? But is it practical? Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, David. I don't think the request is to delete the condition per se. However, just defer when the obligation's due. I mean, we don't have any major objection to that change if a contribution's being made, so long as the contribution is made before the development is occupied. We're relatively comfortable that. I think the more critical issue is if art was being proposed as part of the development, that we have that up front and we know exactly what is being proposed throughout the development of the actual building itself, and ensuring that that's, if it was being delivered, in place before it is occupied. So deferring the contribution to the occupation point doesn't hold any grave concerns. However, we couldn't, realistically, we couldn't hold up an occupancy permit off the back of non-payment of an art contribution. So as long as we have some certainty from the applicant that they will pay prior to occupancy and won't push for occupancy ahead of that payment, we'd be comfortable with that.
Thank you very much. That answers my question beautifully. That's exactly what I was asking to hear. Thank you. I'm comfortable.
Any other questions, Councillor Good? No?
No,
Councillor Adams, any questions of the city staff?
No, I'm fine, thanks. Brenton covered what I had concerns with. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Member Premji, any questions of the staff?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. I have a question to the staff. Does the council require a post-development acoustics report to ensure the noise mitigation measures that has been outlined in Appendix A of the noise report have been correctly implemented? Or are you happy that the conditions you have imposed at the moment will cover that?
We're happy with the conditions that are proposed, that there's sufficient scope within that for us to ensure that everything's been installed as per what has been proposed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else, Member Premji?
No, thank you, thanks.
Questions from you? No. All right, I have a few, if that's okay, Brenton. Condition 15 places a restriction on the number of children that can be accommodated on the site at any one time, but it's silent on staff members. Is there a reason you've not included the staff numbers in that condition?
Yeah, primarily because the staffing doesn't always, so they've in the application, they've said that they'll have up to 19 staff. But if there's changeover in staff timing, so they typically will have handovers. So at some point you might end up with more than 19 staff members at the premises because there's a simple crossover. By capping it, we've run into difficulty with other applications previously. So it's easier that we cap the children numbers and then any crossover in staff as it needs to occur can occur.
Okay, and you don't have a concern that by not limiting the number of staff on site at any one time, that's not going to cause an issue with parking on site?
Not explicitly, no. They've got sufficient parking for staff and parent drop-off, so we're pretty comfortable with that.
Okay. I note your responsible authority report doesn't specifically outline an assessment against the 10 design principles of SPP 7.0. Could you very briefly comment on whether you think the proposal meets these design principles and why?
I think generally it does. I myself was not the assessing officer of the application. However, I've had a look through the proposal and obviously reviewed the RAR ahead of it being presented to the DAP. I think the development provides a good integration with the surrounding area. It provides a well-needed service to hang off the edge of the shopping centre and that district centre more broadly. And I think it also provides a much needed service for that community. So I'm comfortable that the design and integration of it is enough to address broadly the principles of the SPP.
Thank you. Then your scheme requires that non-residential development needs to comply with relevant provisions of the R codes, and your responsible authority report does outline that the proposal meets the setbacks required by the codes. Can we assume that all other relevant R codes requirements have also been met?
Yeah, so typically that provision relates to largely setbacks, and then obviously overlooking is one of those, and then overshadowing. So this site sits to the south of a proposed future residential site. So in terms of overshadowing, it's not going to present any issues there. In terms of overlooking, the site's flat. There's no, it's not proposed to be built up. And then obviously there's the requirement out of the acoustic report for a 3-metre noise wall, which is obviously going to do twofold: prevent any overlooking and then also ameliorate any noise impacts associated with the development. It also then provides permeable fencing to the park at the rear, which is a positive outcome as well. So,
thank you. Last question from me. I note that you haven't asked for an operational management plan for this proposal. Is there a reason for this?
We typically don't require them. We don't find that they cause too much of an issue, and specifically in this area, being that it is essentially an extension of a shopping centre site, or very close to it, we didn't feel in this instance that it was necessary.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have no more questions. Unless there are any further questions for the city staff, I suggest we move to the report for the item. And in the report in front of you, you have a recommendation for approval, subject to a number of conditions. I'm going to seek a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Does anyone wish to move the recommendation in the report? Councillor Good, does anyone wish to second? Councillor Adams, thank you very much. Councillor Good, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Having seen this property for many, many years and driven past on Murdoch Drive, I know it extremely well. And to me, it really does meet and tick a lot of boxes. Right next door to the shopping centre, parking won't be an issue at all because there's actually heaps of parking bays on the shopping centre itself. The fact that if you go down Murdoch Drive and then truck a lefty into Ovens Road, you've got 2 primary schools within 1 kilometre of this property. So clearly the demand is there. It's medium to higher density in certain areas around. I just think it meets the planning framework, serves a very useful purpose. Access along Murdoch Drive, it's a wider road, so you can get around quite comfortably. So I think it actually is a very good development. So I'm very supportive of it, and I think it ticks all the boxes very, very nicely. And good to see this property actually being developed rather than being vacant for a long, long time. I strongly support it.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Adams, a seconder, do you wish to speak?
I can only echo what Councillor Good has said, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Does any other member wish to speak for or against this motion? Member Lafanti.
I only wish to speak in relation, or make some general comments. I'm supportive of the proposal. From my perspective, I concur with the comments that have been made in relation to being consistent with the planning framework and appropriate in its locational context. And I'm satisfied that the on-site parking deals with the peak movement for both the staff as well as the drop-off pick-up timeframes, and noting that those things do not coincide with each other, so it actually works well on the site. At this juncture, I would, however, like to move an amendment, Amendment 1. Sure. The Amendment 1 is Condition 11, to replace the words "as per the material we received" with "prior to occupation."
Thank you. Before you talk further on that, do I have a seconder for that amendment? Member Premji, you wish to speak further?
My comments are that I would, the reason for making that change is that it does provide the flexibility on the timeframe for resolution of the public art through the construction period as indicated applicant. It does not alter the purpose of the condition in terms of requiring the provision of public art and for that to be completed and implemented prior to occupation, which is essentially the function of the public art.
Thank you. Member Prem, did you wish to speak to the amendment?
Nothing further to add. I agree with the Deputy Presiding Member.
Any other member wish to speak for or against the amendment? I might very briefly add to that. I think I'm supportive of the amendment. I think securing a building permit is not a guarantee that the proposal will progress. So I think it is more appropriate to require any monetary contribution prior to occupation, given the certainty at that point. And picking up on the City Officer's comment that there is always a risk at that point that there's a push for occupancy and you can't potentially legally hold back that, waiting for the contribution. I think the same is to be said for the building permit process. So for me, it's no more risk asking for it at the occupancy stage. I just think it's more pragmatic because of the certainty at that point. So I will support the amendment. Let's vote on that amendment then. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Back to you.
I have no further comments.
Thank you. I think we've... Member, that you didn't want to speak on the motion?
No, not on the amendment, but on the motion. Just that I agree with what the councillors have expressed, especially Councillor Good, that the development does align with the relevant planning framework and that all the concerns that has been expressed, such as traffic, car parking, noise and waste management, have been adequately addressed by the conditions, and therefore I support it.
Excellent. Thank you. I too am prepared to support the recommendation for approval. Under the city's planning scheme, the use is an A use in the residential zone, which means the use can be considered for approval after it's been advertised for comment. I'm comfortable that the proposal meets the objectives of the residential zone, specifically the requirement for any non-residential development to be compatible with and complementary to existing residential development and the streetscape. It is noted there were 2 objections received to the proposal. These largely centred around traffic, parking and amenity. I'm comfortable that the traffic impacts have been appropriately modelled and reported in the traffic impact statement and assessed as being acceptable to the city's traffic engineers. I agree with the conclusions of the traffic analysis that the vehicle movements that will be generated by the facility can be safely accommodated within the surrounding road network. Also comfortable with a minor parking shortfall, given it appears the peak parking demand is likely not to exceed 26 bays. In terms of amenity, the site is located next to a shopping centre, separated from existing residential land uses by either a road or a strip of public open space, and it will be separated from future land uses, residential land uses, by a noise wall required as a condition of approval. It also takes the form of a modest residential looking building, and it won't be out of character with the existing streetscape. I'm therefore comfortable that the issues raised in the objections have been appropriately covered off in the design, the technical reports or in the conditions of approval. With that, I will hand back to Councillor Good as mover to close.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will then move to a vote on the item. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 4 on our agenda for Gosnells, Form 2 DAP applications. They are nil. Item 5, Section 31 SAT reconsiderations, also nil. With that, I thank Councillor David Good and Councillor Aaron Adams for your participation, and we will see you next time.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to Part C, City of Wanneroo. I'd like to welcome Councillor Bronwyn Smith and Councillor Jackie Huntley to the panel. We have them both online. We note that Councillor Huntley, we don't have a camera working for her, but she...
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Hello. We have everyone online. Item 1, declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all documentation contained within Part C of the agenda and the Part C related information. Could I please confirm by a show of hands that members have considered all information? Thank you. Item 2, disclosures of interest. No disclosures of interest have been received to this point. Do any members wish to make any declarations of interest in relation to this item? And could I confirm with our local government members whether this has been before you previously at any council meeting or briefing?
No, this hasn't.
No. Great. Any other disclosures that any member would like to make?
No.
None?
No.
Excellent. Moving on to item 3, our Form 1 DAP application for today. Lot 100, number 45, Trandos Road, Neerabup. It's a proposed use not listed, battery energy storage system, DAP number 25/02895. We have 2 presentations on this item today. We have Aaron Augustin from GHD speaking in favour of the recommendation in the report. We have Piers Clinton from Shell Energy Operations and Alex Park from Foresight Group speaking in favour of the recommendation in the report. Presenters you would have heard before. Under clause 4A2 of our standing orders, your presentations are limited to 3 minutes. I will call you to time when you get close to your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Member. We'll start with the presentation that was forwarded through, and Mr. Clinton from Shell Energy will lead us off.
I might just make a quick correction. Might put it to Alex on the screen to kick us off with some intro and context, and I'll take over.
Thank you. Can I just check you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, good morning, councillors and panel members. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce our proposed project, the Neerabup Battery Energy Storage System, or BESS for short, on behalf of Foresight and Shell. My name's Alex Park. I'm a Senior Development Manager with Foresight Group. Our proposed development is located adjacent to the existing Neerabup gas-fired power station. The 330 megawatt power station started operating back in 2009 and is a partnership between Foresight and Shell. More broadly, Foresight has invested in Western Australia since 2003 in energy projects, including operating power stations at Kwinana gas-fired power station, Esperance power station and gas pipeline, as well as Mumbita wind farm near Geraldton. Shell and Foresight are developing Condon wind farm in the Wheatbelt as well, in addition to this battery energy storage project. We see promising opportunities in WA's wholesale electricity market, especially for energy storage projects. It's clear that new energy storage projects will be needed to firm renewables in the years ahead and to ensure enough capacity is in the system ahead of Synergy's forecast closures or reductions in capacity at Coley, Muja and Pinjar, all before the end of this decade. We think this development is appropriate given the existing land use adjacent to the project, and we think it would be valuable to the West Australian wholesale electricity market. I'll now pass to Piers from Shell to continue the presentation.
Thanks very much, Alex. I'd like to take the opportunity to just quickly walk through the design considerations and methodology. We designed and sized the BESS based on AEMO's anticipated for our market needs. We optimised the layout to maximise the BESS capacity given the available footprint that you see on the site in green. The BESS would capitalise on some of the existing infrastructure developed by Neerabup Power Station, mainly the 330 kV transmission line that connects the project site to the Neerabup terminal station 2.5 kilometres down the road. We conducted 4 key sets of technical studies, including an acoustic impact assessment, which included some background noise monitoring for a few weeks, a bushfire management plan, a surface water management plan, and a transport impact statement. We're anticipating around 18 months for construction and commissioning activities for the development. And finally, I'd like to just quickly take the opportunity to walk through some key parts of infrastructure on the site. So as you can see in the centre of the general arrangement on the screen, the non-filled in boxes constitute our 132 battery containers. And in sort of greyed and in dark, running north and south, are our 34 power conversion systems or inverters. And then namely to the north, we've got our substation that allows the site to connect into the grid. I think that really covers it from, I guess, a key infrastructure perspective. I'd like to now hand over to the next presentation.
Thank you, Piers. As mentioned by Alex and Piers, this is a very significant piece of infrastructure, represents a very significant investment in energy storage in the metro region. Outside of Kwinana, perhaps the first facility of this nature in the metro area. We'd like to thank the City for their positive RAR recommendation. There are a few conditions we'd like to address with the panel. I understand that the GST's response to the draft conditions should be with the panel as well. Running through those briefly, the application is accompanied by a noise impact assessment that demonstrates that the battery at all times of operation will comply with the relevant noise regulations without further works being required to the site to enable that compliance. Condition 6 talks about the implementation of works and we request that be elected. Reduces ambiguity. Likewise on condition 10, some minor ambiguity around reference to subdivision of the land that we'd also seek to remove from the decision just as a tidy up. But perhaps more substantially, condition 12, which follows condition 11 of the recommendation. So condition 11 requires implementation of the bushfire management plan and bushfire risk management plan that accompany the application. Condition 12 requires submission of a compliance certificate to demonstrate that those measures have been undertaken. The concern that Shell has with the imposition of a compliance certificate is that some of the activities referenced in Section 7, Table 6 of the BMP are ongoing compliance matters that require at all times the proposal to be satisfying, and that a compliance certificate that represents a point in time would be inappropriate to achieve that compliance that's otherwise addressed through condition 11. On condition 13, relating to the former Pinjar tip leachate plume that exists to the east of the site and does, based on evidence prepared by GHD, it turns out, extend to this piece of land. A request for a Section 70A notification. The view of the proposal is that this doesn't relate to planning of the facility. The facility does not interact with the leachate plume in any form, is not likely to in any way, and that the imposition of a Section 70A notification on title would achieve no real planning purpose. There's potential for this to complicate land tenure considerations in the future as well, so we respectfully request the deletion of condition 13. That was really all we had to present, so there's nothing else from the Shell team or online. Happy to pass back to the presiding member.
Thank you for that. We will hand to our members online first to see if there are any questions of these presenters. Councillor Smith, any questions for the presenters?
I have one question. I don't know if it's more to the city. It's in terms of the report and 4.1, if that makes sense. So I'm just going back to the agenda. A4.1, the water supply. So who would be the best person to ask that about in terms of the proposal?
You can ask the question, and if the applicants are not able to answer it, we'll ask the city. So,
okay. So the proposal says it provides 30,000 litres of water in tanks, but what I'm wanting information on is the second part in the left column, which says, however, the fire water location and capacity for the best facilities have not been specified with 288,000 litres required. So I don't know if I've missed that part in the adjacent column, but if that could be clarified for me, that would be great.
So Councillor, the 30,000 litre requirement comes from the SPP guidelines and relates to fire water protection for the habitable buildings on the site. The additional 288,000 litre specification comes from renewable energy guidelines that exist in other jurisdictions and relate to application of water to a battery and fire, for instance. So it comes from guidance, not necessarily from.
Aaron, sorry, could you just speak up a little bit?
Sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah. They're essentially in our view, two separate things. Was there anything you wish to add to that, just from a design point of view?
I think from a design point of view, I think the technology's evolved a lot, and with these battery fires, the strong advice from the OEMs or manufacturers is not to apply water directly to the batteries themselves. It's to keep the surrounding areas cool. I sincerely believe that 30,000 litres is more than enough to keep the surrounding areas cool, given that the batteries have a way of self-containing those fires in a way that it doesn't propagate based on the standardised design.
Councillor Smith, did that answer the question?
I think so, yes, for now. Could the applicant just repeat which condition that they wanted? Was that 11? Which one was it that they, so not 11, which one did they want deleted?
Condition 12, and if we're still talking on bushfire.
Yeah, okay.
So condition 12 deals with the certification, and then I think condition 11 requires implementation of the bushfire management plan, but condition 12 requires certification, and that's what they're asking to be deleted.
Okay, sorry, can you just repeat the reason for that? In terms of why you think it's, sorry, I missed that part.
That's okay. So condition 11 requires us to comply with the BMP and BRMP as submitted. Condition 12 requires a in-point-in-time compliance certificate. Now, some of the matters in the BMP are ongoing requirements, so we don't see the purpose of requiring a certificate at the time of. Sorry, I'm just reading. Well, the condition actually doesn't specify a time in which that should be submitted, so potential additional complications as to when that would occur.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? No? Councillor Huntley, questions from you?
Yeah, thank you, presiding member. I'm just going to ask about that compliance certificate. I have an issue with if you're only providing 30,000 litres of water to obviously cool the bush around the batteries. If there was a fire, how would you control a fire? And would that compliance certificate relate to that control?
Just as a point of clarification, Councillor, are we talking about a bushfire attack on the facility? We're talking about a say, battery unit fire from the facility itself?
Battery fire.
So the 30,000 litres relates to firefighting water for a bushfire attack. The facility itself will, in time, identify an appropriate amount of on-site firefighting water, but that water is not intended, or is at least not required through the regulations, to be provided for bushfire attack response. So just in terms of fire response on the site more generally, if I may, there is some press around fires occurring in similar facilities. I would say, like Mr. Clinton acknowledged, the design of these facilities has evolved significantly in the last couple of years. The spacing of units really curtails any chance of significant fire risk on the site. All of the units are fitted with fire responses, sprinklers, alarms, that kind of thing. So the reason the response in the RAR is based on guidelines is because there is no real firm requirement for on-site fire response that exists in SPP 3.7. And overall, we think that there's a pathway towards the facility actively responding to fire risk on the site.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
The issue of the bushfire, obviously, that area is surrounded by, you've got the Nangara forest just up the road, and you've also got Pinjar, which is all bushland at the moment, and there is no water supply. There used to be a lake 100 years ago. It's not there anymore, and it's certainly, there is no water on that land at all. Now, after the Marinjanut fires, we did see a cataclysmic movement of fire, and Pinjar is really the next Marinjanut. So 30,000 litres of water really will be gone within minutes. So I'm just wondering, if you do have a significant fire next to that, how are you going to actually cool with that 30,000 litres, and what water supply will you have to control the batteries, or even a different type of extinguisher to control the batteries from overheating and obviously causing a fire themselves as well?
Thanks, Councillor Huntley. I think if I'm interpreting your question correctly, it's to come up with a response as to how we can protect the facility from incoming bushfire risk. So the site is adjacent and with the same landowner as the nearby power station that currently has roughly around 800,000 litres of firefighting water capacity. So it would be within the power station's best interest to protect the assets in its entirety from any incumbent bushfire. And the land on which the batteries sit, the proposed development for these batteries was actually anticipated for another 2 gas peaker turbines. So that 800,000 litres of firewater storage that I mentioned was to cater for the land on which we're proposing to develop the battery. So I think what I'm trying to get at there is we believe that the landowner who's holding this DA has significant, I guess, water reserves on site to protect the power station, the existing power station, and I guess surrounding development if necessary from incumbent bushfire risk. And sort of what I'm saying there is like what we call the West Bank, but a big sand dune where we manage fuel load there to keep it to a minimum. You know, it's noted that that could be a potential entry point of potential bushfire risk. So that fire water existing on the power station itself is there to be used to fight against any incumbent bushfires from that side, of that western front really. And then you've got a lot of industrial land on the east.
Can I follow up there? Is there an issue why you don't want to supply more water and just rely on really the landowner supplying the water? Is there a reason why that's 230 odd thousand litres can't be put on your land? Is there no space for the tank? What's the issue there, or do you just don't want to supply it?
You're absolutely correct, Councillor Huntley, on space requirements. This site is hugely space constrained. I think we'd be flexible. I think safe to say we'd be flexible on sort of upgrading from 30,000 litres, but we do see that circa 300,000 litres as, overly cumbersome on the project, and that would require reducing the size of the development and sort of ongoing knock-on effects with grid connection applications, etc., that are running in parallel, redesign with our OEMs. So I think we could definitely, or most probably, increase that on-site water capacity, but just to a more reasonable amount. That's right, not at that upper threshold of 300,000 litres.
Just so we're clear, the 30,000 is the essentially required amount, and that will be provided, proposed to be provided, but there will be additional water held on site. It's just the sizing of that is TBC.
And if I could go on that part, and like we're still sort of quite in the early stages of design. There'll be ongoing. Project needs to go through detailed design, and further consultation with Gridfest would occur in that detailed design stage. And at that stage would be a much more applicable time to confirm, I guess, exact water storage. I'm not sure if Alex has any questions on the screen, but or things to add, but from our side, I think.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley, any other questions?
Just very quickly to ask, in the experience of obviously batteries, I know this is new technology, but have there ever been any fires, and how did they control them?
Thanks, Councillor Huntley. So there's been an incident at a Tesla facility in Victoria a few years ago, where during commissioning, fire suppression systems were turned off. That was definitely a major design flaw, and that should have never happened. But the few battery units there did catch fire. In terms of fire suppression measures, these facilities are built to burn themselves out and self-contain. The fires generally do not propagate from container to container. And the advice from the manufacturers and OEMs is essentially for firefighters to monitor and ensure that, I guess, the surrounding areas are kept cool, but no water is to be applied to those battery units. They will burn themselves out over a few hours, depending on how charged they are. But like the design of the containers themselves and fire tests show that the fires, in our experience, don't propagate and contain themselves and burn out over a few hours. And then, too, if you were to apply water to, I guess, a battery fire, there would be some, contamination risks to that land. So by sort of letting it self-contain, you minimise the risks of any contamination considerably.
Thank you. Anything else, councillor?
Just very quickly. So are you saying that there is no, you don't actually put a battery fire out, you actually just let it burn out?
Correct.
Anything else, councillor?
Okay, no, not at this stage.
Thank you. Member Premji.
Yes, I understand that the self-contained batteries burn out. Given that you're in Nearabah Power Station and your site is next to it and you'll be looking at putting a bushfire management plan out, an emergency response plan, my question to you is, are you working in consultation with the Nearabah Power Station with regards to your response plans?
Thanks, Councillor Premji. Yes, absolutely. The Nearabah Power Station being an existing asset jointly owned by Foresight and Shell, we throughout the project development process have extensive consultation with the power station and all the staff. So there is a chance too that the current on-site power station staff would take over operations and maintenance facilities on site and monitoring of the site. So yeah, all of the design works that we've done to date have been in strong consultation with the power station.
So your ERA license, that would also cover the BESS facility?
I'm not sure if GHD could speak to that. I can't give you an answer on the spot on that technical point.
Okay, so if you're saying Nearabah will be actually doing the O&M of the BAS, which is not extensive, so it would have to come under their license conditions by ERA then?
When I say that, they may be one of the contenders to do so.
Okay, all right, okay.
And there would be new O&M facilities on the BESS development side, but
Right.
like the staff would be potentially supporting both sides.
Both sides, okay. All right, thank you. No, that's all the question I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Lafferty.
Not at this juncture.
Thanks. I've just got a couple for you. Are you comfortable that both you and the City of Wanneroo understand and agree the scope of works required by Condition 9?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Now, you've asked us to amend Condition 10, remove reference to plans of subdivision, and in our minutes for these meetings, we need to stipulate reasons as to why we do that, if we do that. And you made a comment that it's about a tidy up. Could you expand on that, please? Is it because it's not relevant? There's no subdivision applicable. Okay, thank you very much. All right, unless there's further questions for this presenter, I think we might move to ask questions of the local government officers. And we have Nick DeVetchis and Aaron Jones with us today from the City of Wanneroo. Councillor Smith, any questions of the city officers?
Sorry, I just had a follow-up question for the presenter, if possible, first.
Sure.
The presenter mentioned the 30,000 minimum and the 300,000 maximum. That he thought was more than necessary. I was just wondering what ballpark he was thinking in terms of the increase when he was talking to Councillor Huntley, that was there a ballpark in mind of what they thought they might be able to increase capacity to in terms of water storage?
No, subject to detailed design.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So the proponent obviously has an interest in ensuring the correct amount of water is on site to deal with any incidents and to maintain insurance.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith, do you have questions for the city officers?
Not at this point, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Huntley, questions of the city officers?
Yes, presiding member. In condition 12, how would you see that as something that you would delete or not?
We're happy to delete condition 12. We feel that we agree with the applicant, and we also think that there are...
Sorry, we're battling to hear you if you could speak up for us.
Can you hear me better now?
Not really.
Sorry, bear with us a moment. Is that better?
Not really.
Yeah, it's more muffled than anything else.
Yeah.
One sec, let me just see if I can change the microphone input.
That's actually better when you sit closer to it.
Okay, I could just be distance. All right, I'll drag you over here. Okay, so we are happy to remove that condition. So we agree with the applicant. A lot of it is ongoing monitoring and maintenance responsibilities, and the construction of the road and whatnot is controlled by other conditions. So we are satisfied with condition 12 being removed.
All right. And how are you off with the regard to 30,000 litres instead of 288,000 litres on site for fire prevention?
So we are obviously guided by the state planning policy. State planning policy has minimum standards, and the applicant is committed in their bushfire management plan to meet those standards. We've referred the application obviously to DFIS for their comments. DFIS have referred to the guidelines for best practice, and the bushfire management plan, and the applicant will do their detailed design in accordance with the National Construction Code and in liaison with DFIS. So they will have a bushfire suppression system in accordance with the state planning policy, and a on-site suppression system that has to meet the National Construction Code and their specific operations requirements. So in that respect, the city is satisfied.
Okay.
Anything else, Councillor Huntley?
I don't know whether to do to put an amendment in, because I do feel we should be following the advice from the bushfire report, rather than, I know we have minimum standards, but at the end of the day, I know where this site is, and if there is a fire there, even though there's more water next door, the fact is you have to get that water over. And if the fire is over the road and goes cataclysmic, then the heat, just the sheer heat. And after Marinjanup fires, seeing a whole...
Sorry, Councillor, is there a question for the staff?
Yeah, there is. Seeing a generator burn, that was huge. And nobody expected that to burn, and it did. I'm just a little bit worried that these batteries might see a fire that's never been experienced before, and we are not planning forward with regard. We're just using bare minimum standards. So my question is, if there is an amendment, could we do an amendment that we follow the guidelines of the report going to 2,088 litres rather than the 33,000 that is the minimum standard? And if we could, how do we do it?
City staff, do you want to comment on that, please?
Yeah, happy to comment on that. The report doesn't recommend more than what is required under the state planning policy. It does talk about there being further discussion with DFIS in the detailed design for further fire suppression methods and the like. So I guess we could apply a condition to that effect, but it wouldn't necessarily be tied to the standard planning framework. So I'm not sure what the I guess we could require them to liaise with DFIS through a condition. But they're going to do that anyway through the condition requirement to comply with the bushfire management plan. So I don't think it would be appropriate. I think we should leave them to organise their bushfire and fire suppression systems as part of the detailed design, noting that their bushfire management plan already states that they meet the minimum design. And I say minimum design, but that doesn't mean that it is not sufficient. It is considered sufficient under the state planning framework. So I wouldn't recommend putting that condition on.
I'm just a little bit worried. It does actually say a model requirement, so that has been modelled, but obviously not been tested. So we're still on the minimum requirement under the rules. So okay. So you're actually saying that they've got to work with the bushfire. You're happy that they'll work with the bushfire the management plan will sort that all out, and whether or not they put more water in will be that they'll work that out with the bushfire consultant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Councillor Huntley, do you have any further questions?
No, thank you, presiding member.
Councillor Smith, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, if the administration wanted to comment on condition 10, which was about that subdivision and that request for change there.
Yes, so just in relation to condition 10, so it's just merely an administration.
Sorry, we can't hear you. If you could speak up.
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Perfect. So the condition 10 is merely an administrative error in terms of referencing subdivision. It's a condition taken from the model subdivision conditions for road construction. So perfectly happy with the recommended changes to remove the reference to subdivision.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Smith?
Just going back to what kind of the previous conversation between Councillor Huntley and admin, when I was reading the report, I think I was thinking along a similar lines in terms of trying to understand in terms of conditions. And am I right in thinking that advice note 3, which is talking about the proponent talking with DFS and things like that and working that out, that was only advice note because it was under the refs and not a statutory one? Or could we make that advice note 3, which I believe kind of covers what Jackie was concerned about, or Councillor Huntley, as a condition rather than an advice note? But going back to what your previous advice was, you don't believe that's necessary. Can you confirm if my thinking is correct in that sense? Thanks.
Yes, so really the advice note is for further clarity. It's a bit more like belts and braces approach. The recommended condition to ensure that the development complies with the bushfire management plan will cover that off anyway. The bushfire management plan is very extensive and covers off the relevant matters to do with bushfire suppression, site-specific measures, and ongoing liaison with DFS in their detailed design. So I think that the condition at condition 11 will satisfactorily cover that off. The advice note was merely a further point of clarification, just recommending that that does happen.
Okay, thank you.
Member Premji, anything further from you?
Just mainly just the amendments that have been suggested. I can understand condition 6 because I couldn't find any noise mitigation measures. So I gather you'll be happy with that. How about number 13? Are you happy with the recommendation put forward by the applicant?
Yes, we're happy with that. To be honest with you, the condition was just left over from it originally being applied, but the actual report does say that it's not required. So we're happy for the removal of condition 13.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, presiding member. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Lafanti, any questions?
My only question is just to confirm that what you've said today is in relation to the condition modifications put forward by the applicant. City officers are supportive of those changes, of all of those changes, condition 6, 10, 12 and 13?
That's correct.
Yes. Yep. Yes, that was my only question. Great.
Unless there are no more, my questions have already been covered off. So unless there are no more questions of the officers, I think we're going to move to the report. You have a recommendation for approval in front of you. Could I seek a mover and seconder for the recommendation in the report? Anyone wish to move? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Anyone wish to second? Thank you, Member Premji. Member Lafanti, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll speak first to the motion, but I do have some amendments I wish to deal with afterwards.
Sure.
So I'll speak to the motion. I'm supportive of the proposal. It is appropriate in the context of a not listed use, is appropriate in the context of its location as well as the planning framework. I note and would like to acknowledge the the raw details that the officers have put forward relating to the land use, not permitted land use, and the appropriateness of it. I found that exceptionally clear in terms of meeting those provisions and being appropriate within the general industrial zone, noting that you also went as far as talking about other zones and clarified that further. As far as I'm concerned, therefore, this use can be considered. I note there was one submission, and that submission talked about amenity impacts. I do note that the report also addressed that in terms of the proposal being distance of 1.5 kilometres from the nearest residential, and I'm satisfied that the distance provided is a significant buffer to the development in terms of impacts for the proposal. So overall, I think the development is an appropriate development. Obviously, right next to the power station is a logical location for a development of this nature. I'm also satisfied that given the unique nature of the type of use, that other provisions such as landscaping and parking need to be considered in the site context, as well as the nature of the development, and the report covers the rationale and the material about why those variations or those elements are not required, noting obviously that in terms of the land use, there's not a specific set of development provisions. I would like at this juncture, if I may, to move to amendments. I would like to deal with some amendments. My first amendment is to condition 6. And my amendment is to make the change to condition 6, which is modification of condition 6 to remove recommended works must be completed prior to the commencement of use. And I am comfortable that in this case, the material provided, the noise impact material provided doesn't propose any additional works, and has been confirmed by city officers, and they've also indicated that that is not, that they're supportive of those changes. There's no planning concerns in relation to that modification.
Great. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Premji. Do you wish to speak further to the amendment?
No, I've provided my reasons.
Yeah. Member Premji, do you wish to speak to that amendment?
No, thank you. It's okay.
Does any member wish to speak for, any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No? Let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
My second, if I may, through the Chair, my second amendment is to condition 10. That amendment is a very minor amendment. It is consistent with the officers' the applicant's comment, which is to remove the language of subdivision, and it then just has the wording will be in accordance with the approved plans, engineering drawings and specification.
Sure. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Member Premji, do you wish to speak further?
The reason for that is that it's been clarified both, it's not relevant, that element of the condition is not relevant, being clarified by both the city officers and applicant that the application and the site does not currently have a subdivision proposal relating to the site, therefore it's not relevant for this proposal.
Thank you. Member Premji, do you wish to speak to the amendment?
Nothing further to add, agree.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak for or against the amendment? No? Let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
My next amendment is to delete condition 12. There has been a lot of conversation in relation to this.
Let me just get a second for that. Does any member wish to? Thank you, Member Premji.
Back to you. Thank you. There's been a lot of discussion today, and thank you to everybody that's provided the material. Particularly, I'd like to acknowledge both applicant and city officers providing extensive detail, given its location surrounded by both the power station as well as the itself, and there's obviously significant concerns at the nature of this development and the impact that a fire would have. However, I am satisfied based on the material that we have been provided, including the detail about the nature and type of this proposal. That includes a self-contained component within the design itself, managing as fire management tool, as well as noting that it sits on the same site and sits adjoining the power station, which also can include, whilst not directly subject to this application, does include, there is a symbiotic relationship between the two, does include water provision. I'm also satisfied that the material provided today in relation to the nature of treatment, fire mitigation treatment of a battery storage facility and the specialist requirements and the nature of the mitigation materials that are required, as well as the ongoing conversation to be had as the development is refined through DFES. So for those reasons, I'm satisfied that the condition can be deleted, and I also note that this is supported, as been indicated by city officers, and they provided some additional supporting commentary in that relation.
Thank you. Member Premji, do you wish to speak?
I just wanted to say I concur with the comments expressed so far, and I believe reading the conditions, condition 11, advisory note 3 is also there, which the officers are relying on. So, as far as I see with the arguments presented, it is comfortable to delete condition 12.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak for or against the amendment? I might just add to that I think there are just certain measures which need to be undertaken on a regular basis and or in perpetuity. So condition 12, which requires certification of implementation of the measures in the bushfire management plan, actually cannot be achieved because you can't certify those as complete when they have to be undertaken on an ongoing basis. So in addition to the reasons already provided, I just don't think that it's relevant to require certification of things that will be ongoing. Do you wish to close on that amendment? Right, unless anyone wishes to speak on that, I will put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
And I would also like to move an amendment to condition 13, condition 13 that deleted. The report itself does have...
I'll just get a seconder for that. That's all good. Does anyone wish to second? Thank you, Member Premji. Back to you.
I note that the report itself refers to this matter as not requiring notification. There's also been discussion today in relation to this aspect. I'm not buying into issues around the development or construction cost development. In relation to that, as far as I'm concerned, those are not subject to this determination or my amendment to remove it. It's purely based on the planning considerations, the material that we've provided in our RA, that this is not required at this nature, at this time frame.
Thank you, Member Premji. Anything you wish to add?
Nothing further to add.
Any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? Let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Anything you wish to add to the primary motion?
Nothing further.
Member Premji, as seconder of the primary motion as amended, is there anything you wish to speak to?
I'd just like to say that it's a very well designed BESS system, and it's consistent with the designated zoning being the general industry zone. A very thorough assessment has been done of the potential risks, especially with respect to bushfire and the mitigation measures. And with all the concerns that was expressed earlier about the buffer, with the neighbours, there's a significant buffer. And more importantly, this entire development is in light with the WA government's policy on renewable energy, moving towards the transition. So on those bases, I fully recommend and support the RA recommendation with the amendments.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak to the primary motion as amended? Councillor Huntley, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you. Presiding member, I'm satisfied.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Only to say it's great to see kind of a facility like this, battery storage, come on. That we have looked at. One of the problems, I guess, going to more renewable is sometimes extra energy coming to the grid and being able to handle that. So hopefully this will help with that. And it's great to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will speak briefly. I'll be supporting the recommendation for approval, although the proposal constitutes a use not listed under the city scheme. It aligns well with the objectives of the general industry zoning of the site and its designation for general industrial uses under Agreed Structure Plan number 17. There was an objection to the proposal, and this objection centred on proximity to residential land and the risk of fire. However, the site is located 1.7 kilometres away from the nearest residential use, and I think from the discussion we have had today, the issue of managing fire risk has been appropriately dealt with via the Bushfire Management Plan and the associated condition of approval. So I'm satisfied that the proposal meets all relevant legislation and requirements of the applicable planning framework, so happy to support. With that, I will hand back to the mover to close if there's anything you wish to add.
No, nothing further.
Nothing? All right, let's put the primary motion as amended to the vote by a show of hands. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, Form 2, DAP applications for the City of Wanneroo. Their renewal. Item 5, Section 31, SAT reconsiderations, also nil. Moving on to Part D, other business. Item 1, SAT applications and Supreme Court appeals. All SAT applications for the DAPs are listed on the website. With that, I declare the meeting closed at 10:52 a.m. I thank all our members for attending today. I thank the presenters for your time. And as usual, I thank the DAP Secretariat for all your time and effort in making these things run smoothly.
Thank you.
Next time.
Thank you.
Bye.